Students should be in groups of no more than six. Most teachers and educators like to group their students in groups of five. Um, the lesson should be no more than 20 to 25 minutes long. Um, Students need to be able to read the text as well as have time to get familiar with the sight words and the illustrations in the book. They should be able to read the book and just become very familiar during this time, as well as the other steps that are included during this 20 to 25 minute block in the guided reading session.
So how do you determine who's in what group? And another part, in other words, what type of assessments or assessment can be used to determine the members of each group and can we explain that?
You as a teacher in your classroom, you know your students, so you are able to group them together based on similar levels of development. If they have similar reading levels, then they need to be grouped together so that they are able to build upon their reading levels and learn new strategies. Students, you should just basically base your students in groups of group them together based on their reading skills and their reading levels. And to do this, you can use a running record, which is where you're observing the student daily, and while they're reading independently during your quiet time, or whenever they are exposing themselves to books. Just jot down different notes on how they are interacting and behaving while they're reading a book, whether it's independently, doing shared reading, and in a group session.
Those are the assessments.
That's one form of an assessment, which is the running record. You can also use standardized level book assessments. You can also use the Fountas and Pinnell benchmark assessment, which is based off of the level reading chart, level reading text chart, and it goes from A all the way to Z. You can also use the reading vocab assessment. You're able to group the students based on their vocabulary knowledge. If they're able to recognize a sight word or a new word based on the letters in that word, and the vocabulary that they already know.
So how do you know when to regroup and move individual students to other groups?
You know when to regroup and move your students to different groups when you are going back through your running record and the different tools of assessment that you use, and you notice that the student has met each goal that you have made for them. Now, once they've reached their goal, they no longer need to be in that same reading group because they are moving and advancing to a different level. So once they've met that goal, then you need to move them to the next reading group so that they can build upon what they've already learned and learn new reading skills and reading strategies to use.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of scheduling guided reading lessons, how do you organize your literacy block? In other words, how much time is allotted for guided reading as a whole, and what do the other students do while you are teaching guided reading groups?
Guided reading should be, your guided reading group should be no longer than 20 to 25 minutes long. Now, while you are in your guided reading groups, you're only going to have 5 students, and the rest of the students will be in different centers working on different activities that are reading related activities. Everybody may not be reading the same book in their guided reading groups, but they are, reading texts that are on their guided reading group level. So while you are, in session there, some may be writing in their journals, some may be writing sentences using their sight words based on their reading group text, and these activities are going on while you are in session with your guided reading group. Now you can have a reader's workshop, and the reader's workshop is it's a reading focused lesson, and you have your guided practice, which is the guided reading group, and you have an independent practice where children can read independently or one-on-one. You can work with one particular student and take notes on that student while the other students are working on their guided reading activity. And this should take no more than 45 to 60 minutes of your day. And you can do a word study. Some students will be working on a word study where they are writing spelling words or locating new sight words, and you can do this individually, and you can do it as a whole lesson. You can also do guided reading practice. You can do this one-on-one or in small groups, but this particular activity does not happen all day. Most teachers don't like to use this all day. When I was in the classroom, I didn't like to use this all day, or not all day, but every day, I should say, because you have other activities that you can work on independently with the students as well as the classroom as a whole. And this only has it should only take maybe no more than 15 to 20 minutes of your day in the classroom. And you can also do a writer's workshop. This is where you focus on writing with the classroom as a whole. And you can use guided practice in small groups. You don't have to expose everybody to this as a whole, but you can get more intimate with your students, and you can perform this activity in small groups. And you can also do independent reading. You can do independent practice, They can read independently and they can write independently. This is where they're able to, maybe write a story about the book that they read, use sentences, put their sight words in sentences, and actually, just write a summary of what they read in the book. And this should take no more than 45 to 60 minutes, per day. And, you don't have to, you won't group your students together every day. Like, you should break your guided reading groups down into different categories based on the students' reading skills and their, reading behavior. Now, you can break your students down into colors. You can break them down into, different name categories. It just depends on what you would like to do, as an educator. And, you may meet with the red group on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the blue group on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And you don't necessarily want to let the students know that they're in a lower level or, a higher reading level than other students, because you don't want them to feel insecure about their reading skills.
As we continue in our conversation about an introduction to guided reading, how do teachers match books to the readers for guided reading lessons?
Teachers select books to their readers for their guided reading lessons by basing it off of each student's behavior in their reading levels and based on their reading levels. Teachers make sure that they match the book to each student's knowledge base. They make sure that this book is going to help them to make the next step in their reading learning process as far as building upon the information that they already know. And they also make sure that the book is of interest to the student. And lastly, they make sure that the book is going to be a challenge for the students. They don't want to, so you don't want to select a book that's going to be an easy read. Too much of an easy read. You want to make sure that they're able to actually read the book, think, and be able to comprehend what they're reading.
So what are level books, and how do teachers determine what level each group should read?
Level books are books that are categorized into 3 different categories. You have your easy reads, your easy book reads. You have your challenging books, which is the 3rd level, and then the 2nd level is your emerging readers. Every student will be grouped in a different level. Everybody does not have the same reading level, so they will not be in the same group, and you won't group them all the same. Like you base your students together based on their reading skills and their reading papers.
So what is the procedure for implementing guided reading lessons?
The procedure for implementing a guided reading lesson is, first you have to select your book of choice for your students. You have to make sure that you set a purpose for the lesson. Choose a text that is going to be 1, interesting to the students, and 2, beneficial for their reading level. And you have to make sure that you are planning a supportive introduction. Make sure that you're able to introduce the text that you are about to expose the children to in a very fun and engaging way. Also, you have to make sure that you remind the children of the reading strategies that they need to use while they are reading the book and they're coming across words that they are not familiar with. Make sure that you encourage them and remind them to sound the words out, sound out the letters, and try to actually verbalize the new words. Also, you need to make sure you have teachable moments included in your guided reading group sessions. You make sure that you're observing each child in the guided reading groups as well. Your groups should be no more than 6 students at a time. Most teachers like to have group 5 students together, but you need to make sure that you're able to observe every student and connect the text to make sure that you're able to connect the text to your classroom or something that they're exposed to at their age. And also make sure that you discuss and reread the story. While you're doing this, the students will be able to let you know that they were listening and comprehending the information, and they will be able to let you know what they learned. Also, you need to choose a follow-up activity that will support what the students have learned. If you want to do like a word search activity, or can you find the word that was in the book? You could actually use index cards to write the words out on index cards. Have them put the word in a put each word in a sentence, and these words are sight words. Have them put each word in a sentence, or you could even play like a goldfish game, where you're actually fishing for the word, and once they actually pick up a word, ask them what that word is, and you can also ask them where that word was located in the book as well.
How has this assignment expanded your understanding of how to differentiate reading instruction for the various readers in your kindergarten class?
This assignment has helped me in a great way as far as understanding the concept of guided reading. Right now I am a teacher in a preschool classroom, so I'm not able to use and implement guided reading the same way that I would in an actual kindergarten classroom. Hopefully in the future I will be a kindergarten teacher, where I'm able to use guided reading on a daily basis and group my students into guided reading groups based on their reading skills and their reading levels, in groups of my easy readers, my challenging readers, well, not challenging readers, but my readers who are on a higher level than the other students, and my readers who are just right. They're just they're average readers. I learned so much during this assignment, during my research, and being able to connect all of the guided reading information that I learned doing my research with things that I've already learned in this course. While reading this information and researching, I was able to connect the information on guided reading as far as the matching the books to the readers, and leveling the books on using the different book levels. I was able to connect it to one of the articles that I read in the course titled Inside the Mind of a Child, as far as selecting literature appropriate to the developmental age of the child. And when you are using guided reading, you're doing the same thing, but you're using you're using the knowledge that you have on your students' reading levels and their reading skills to put them in the right guided reading group. So I was just really amazed by all the information that I read, and how I'm able to, or I will be able to, incorporate this teaching instruction tool into my classroom in the future. I'm actually going to already try to incorporate some of the stuff that I learned. I already incorporate sight words in my classroom and reread introductory books, like introduction books, where they're able to recognize the words that they have seen before in the book to places in our classroom. So I may not be able to incorporate all of the guided reading steps and procedures, but I can try to introduce different reading skills and different reading fundamentals in my classroom.
Okay, since you learned so much, tell me what questions you have about guided reading that was not answered in your research.
Well, during my research, I was very surprised that I did not find any information on how you're able to adapt the guided reading lessons and lesson plans to enforce students who have learning disabilities or just students who are handicapped overall. So I would like to learn more about that. So I'm going to have to do some further research on that as well. But because you have to adapt your lesson plan to your students, and I'm learning about that in one of my other courses. We were just learning about assessments and different observation skills, and you have to make sure that you are adapting your lesson plan and teaching skills so that all of your students are able to learn. So I would really like to learn more about how you adapt your lesson plans for guided reading in the kindergarten classroom for children who are handicapped.
Okay, and last but not least, in what ways will you be able to increase your understanding of how to implement guided reading? In other words, what kinds of materials, resources, workshops, or seminars, organizations, conferences, or local experiences are available to you?
Well, to expand my learning of guided reading and exposure to guided reading, I can go to the library, check out different books on guided reading. I can actually look at different webinars, such as there's actually a webinar coming up soon, actually this month, next week actually, March the 26th, and it's going to be focused on text complexity and what is it and how do you address it in the classroom. So I could actually go to different power reading workshops, different staff development trainings and workshops for educators. I could, and I'm very interested in going to a conference held by the North Carolina Reading Association, and they actually have an annual conference, and I think that is actually going on this week, if I'm not mistaken. So I may be a little late in order, to go to that conference or convention, but I would just continue to keep myself exposed to guided reading and literacy as a whole. I could actually locate maybe the community calendars for different and local libraries here in Raleigh, Durham, Cary, Chapel Hill, and as well as also going to do Chapel Hill, Shaw, St. Aug, Central, NC State, going to the different colleges and universities to be involved in different activities, or as far as different seminars or workshops that they may have on guided reading and just literacy as a whole, so that I can continue to just be a sponge and taking all this information so that I can be a better teacher and build on the information that I already know and expose it to my kids in my classroom.